Hello everyone, I'm Xiao Gang. What are we going to talk about in this chapter? In this chapter, we will talk about HTTP servers. Generally speaking, in Unreal Engine, if you work in a mid-sized or large company, you are unlikely to write an HTTP server like this. Because in mid-sized and large companies, they usually have Java back-end programmers or Golang backend programmers who handle server-side development. Note that the server here refers to a type of third-party service. For example, login, registration, and payment. Then querying orders and coupons. These services. We are not talking about the inventory service within the game, or the pathfinding service within the game, or the skill service within the game. These things are internal to Unreal Engine. We will explain how these internal services work later. What we are talking about now are external services, so that is third-party services. For example, if you want to implement a login and registration service, right, then in this chapter, we will have everyone create a simple HTTP server. And this thing is quite easy to use if you are from a small studio, or if you are making an indie game on your own, or a solo developer. And you need to provide something like a verification code for your product, or something like an authorization or a time limit. Then you can write it this way. And the cost of doing it this way is very low because, setting up an Alibaba cloud server, actually for a year, it only costs about 69 to 99 yuan per year, which is equivalent to a 3 megabit bandwidth. Because I have used this myself. Okay, so let's first take a look. Where does this course come from? First, let's open availability. You can just search for Gang. Here, Gang. You can just search the database. We mainly talk about what does this cover. It should be here. Mainly this tutorial. This tutorial is a free tutorial, but its code is paid. Then in our official paid course, we will cover several interfaces from it, several core interfaces and knowledge points. We will break it down. But we won't cover databases because when designing a database, you might not be using MySQL. You might also be using some MongoDB or Circle or some other databases. We won't go into that kind of database here. We will mainly cover this HTTP server. After covering the HTTP server, you can then build the client yourself and build the server. As for this specific course, if you want to take a look at some table-related content in MySQL and how to handle transactional stuff, you can briefly check out this tutorial. Because this tutorial, relatively speaking, was recorded a little bit long ago. As you can see, it's actually a tutorial from last year. So now we have streamlined it, extracting the core knowledge points and recorded it as this paid course for everyone to learn. Then on our end, after watching this, you can go to the Unreal Engine layer here, enter XG, and you will receive this plugin, which is the client of the plugin from the course we just mentioned. Yes, then there are some comments here. You can use this GitHub to jump directly here. So we mainly use GitHub. On GitHub, we jump to this place. This place has documentation in both Chinese and English. This is my GitHub. Everyone should be familiar with this. Just don't send me private messages asking what my Bilibili URL is and what my GitHub is, because replying to those takes a lot of mental energy. Then here we will write a plugin. This plot code is similar to what we did in the previous lesson. The plugin from the previous lesson was called LiveTime. It accessed Taobao server. We have now written a plugin, send HTTP, access the login server we built ourselves. Right, this server can then access some MySQL deployed on our internet, read this, or some message plugin, perform some services. So this is the simplest architecture on the internet, right? A distributed architecture. And then HTTP communication will be used here. So you register, log in, and consume. You do it through HTTP. If you want to implement a heartbeat, it's like this player. This account can only be used at the same time. There is one person online. Limit his online time and login time. Then we recommend using WeShant to do it. We will also do it for everyone later. Which fit and Wallpoke server. How to do it? Actually, we also have it, but we haven't streamlined it. It should not be divided. not divided. This one. We will present the core idea of this aspect and then record it for everyone. Because everything mentioned before was all about testing. After finishing these, actually, during my own use, it has also been optimized through many iterations. So, regarding this chapter and the next 2 or 3 chapters, the arrangement is roughly like this. Okay, alright, let's focus on this document. This document, let's look at the document first, right? This is a document I wrote myself. It has both Chinese and English. Let's just look at the Chinese for now. It can implement operations such as registration, login, consumption, top-up, and inquiry. And this plugin has both a client and a server, right? This server has not been released. You need to purchase this server. You need to contact me separately for that. That's it. I will give you the complete server-side code and documentation. Okay, and then secondly, how do you access it? In Blueprint, it's mainly these nodes. You can see it's very simple. You just pass an event and then pass the data we request. Then we will return the relevant login result. But you need to configure the server's IP and its port, as well as some token information. So this first node is just a simple verification. You can just take a look without passing anything. Because the Plecon has version-related information, it will tell you whether the verification was successful and the reason for this failure or control. So logging in, that is registering. It's also very simple. You see, logging in just requires the username and password, right? And then it tells you here whether you logged in successfully, and if it wasn't successful, whether the failure was caused by the network or the username is incorrect, or that is, it was not found. Just this registration. A registration. Do a simple verification. There is a simple one for this part. Need to do a Rex verification, okay? Then this part is recharge. This interface is used for recharge, consumption, and query. This interface we do not have. It will not be covered in this chapter. We will mainly cover registration and login. After covering these 2 interfaces, it actually still requires quite a few class hours, okay? Then, so this is setting a machine code. We'll just leave this aside. Then let's mainly look at this. This is the test public IP. This IP will be valid for the next 1 to 2 years because I'm using this cloud server myself. So I've kept it running on there. And for the port, we're using this port. Then the other row is XT. Then we set the other row's encryption count. We use their MD constriction, just a simple encryption. Then if you want to use this for top-up and consumption, you need to use the admin account. To manage amounts related to it, you need to use the admin account. Xiaogang EAP 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For others, you just need to register. Okay, here are some of my contact details. And this place is where we have the complete version of a plugin now. And we are very simple. It's just the architecture of a plugin. You can see, right? There is a query time here. As for this time, let me check. This part also uses the Taobao API. We integrated it in. And here it is a data structure for access. That is our enumeration. Then our request info and response info. Does this look familiar, right? This response info. But it is much more complex than our previous move because this actually is my own, following a commercial approach. And I simplified it a bit. Since I use it internally, I don't need to do too much encryption and decryption or floating point calculations. Then I'll simplify it a bit. So what data structures are there? They need to define some structures for making requests, and this is obviously some general server information. Okay, then this subsystem looks familiar, right? And here is where we make an HTTP request, right? And we didn't use a SIG action for one reason. Because we have these, you have one machine. At the same time, you definitely only have one registration and login. You cannot have concurrency from this many registrations and logins, right? There is no need for that. And here is the log. Then we also make a simple config like this, and then it can be configured. Such a token of ours. After configuration, we can end again. Retrieve the data we need in real time. Okay, so what do we do next? Then let's start it up next to show everyone. This is a UTL. It does some regular operations. Our regular operations here. Let's check if we're using UE5's regular. It seems we're not using UE5's regular. The reason we're not using UE5's regular is that UE5's regular, if you're in a project, it's completely, but if you use it in a standalone program using that UE5 regular, you'll find it doesn't work because its localization might be set up for language. The multilingual thing. It was never implemented in the standalone program, so we didn't use UE5's localization here. Actually, UE5 does have localization. We generally use the native one here. a simple localization in C or C++. Okay, so the project is launched. Actually, it's very simple. There's nothing much to say about the level blueprint, just a menu. You can see these UI have so many buttons, and these buttons are actually individual UMG widgets. Then mainly, after we launch it here, we can get to the time here, right? Here, you can get this time. This time is obviously the one we used, still the Taobao time, this interface. Okay. Then we can also switch to WeChat here. Switching to WeChat here is to compare our client plugin with our server plugin to see if they match. It's possible that the server plugin is version 2.5, but the client plugin is version 2.7. Then the server and client won't match well. So this is where the verification happens, and this area is for some login. For example, we can log in as Yalgang here. Let's take a look. Let's see if we can log in successfully. It should be possible. Click the wrong spot here. 修改. This part is a bit unclear, but it shouldn't matter, ma. Let's check the sample log. You can see that we logged in successfully here. Let's change the password randomly. Add a 2. You can see. And then here it says incorrect username or password, right? And then if the login is successful here, it can tell you which user number you are. So there's no problem with registering here. Just register simply. Then you can log in here and rest assured the information you register here is stored on my cloud server. And if you just use it casually, you must not do anything like commercial applications, because if you do commercial applications, then my data here might be cleaned up periodically. For example, we register here a casualty. Our registration password is 12,345,156, and the phone number is 12,345,6789. Let's give an 11-digit one. He just told us to write something casually. Okay. Let our registration here, she will find that we have successfully registered here. Registration successful, right? Then we put this keyword here. Look, we have logged in successfully here, and then the ID is in the third position. Okay, so that's how it's done. Good. This company, it's mainly to give everyone some server-side knowledge, because once you have this server-side knowledge, sometimes you'll use it in your own development. You might not use it in development, and then your backend colleagues, when they try to pull the wool over your eyes, you'll know they're talking nonsense. You can argue back. You'll know what the backend is actually doing. So it's still quite important. All right, thank you everyone.